The battered Ford F-150 rolled into Fort Carson's visitor lot like a ghost from another war, its faded desert tan paint job nearly invisible against the Colorado dust. When Olivia Brennan stepped out, her weathered combat boots hit the pavement with the quiet authority of someone who'd walked through places most soldiers only heard about in classified briefings. At 38, she moved with an economy of motion that spoke of hard-earned discipline, her sun-darkened hands bearing scars that told stories her service record refused to confirm. The only thing unusual about her appearance was her eyes, a shade of gray so pale they looked almost silver in certain light, the kind of eyes that had seen too much and remembered everything. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The Rocky Mountain Military Expo wasn't just another gun show. It was where defense contractors courted Pentagon brass, where billion-dollar contracts were born over handshakes and scotch, where the future of American warfare got polished and presented under halogen lights. Three-star generals mingled with CEOs. Lobbyists in tailored suits navigated crowds like sharks in shallow water. And in the center of it all, the main exhibition hall showcased everything from next-generation drone swarms to autonomous weapon systems that could identify and eliminate targets without human input. Olivia had no business being there. She wasn't military brass, wasn't a contractor, wasn't press. She was there because her younger sister, Isabel Grant, had begged her to come. Isabel worked as a data analyst for Defense Acquisitions Weekly, a trade publication that covered military procurement with the excitement of someone reporting on paint drying. But Isabel had stumbled onto something that made her pulse quicken. Rumors of a rifle that shouldn't exist being displayed by a company that had built its reputation on erasing inconvenient truths. "There," Isabel whispered, pointing toward a glass case in the far corner of the Titan Strategic Solutions booth. "That's the M24 I told you about." The rifle sat on black velvet, under museum-quality lighting, its wood grain gleaming with a polish that suggested reverence rather than utility. A small placard read, M24 SWS, Recovered Asset, Operation Sandstorm Protocol, 2009. Olivia's face went blank. Not surprised blank, not confused blank, the kind of blank that comes when your body shuts down emotional response because showing anything at all would be dangerous. "Liv?" Isabel touched her sister. "You okay? You look like you've seen a—" "I need to see that rifle." Olivia's voice came out flat, mechanical. "Up close." Isabel blinked. "It's behind glass. They're not just going to let you—" But Olivia was already moving, cutting through the crowd with the purposeful stride of someone who'd learned to navigate chaos. She stopped at the display case, her pale eyes scanning every detail of the weapon. The wood grain, the serial number etched into the receiver, the faint scratches along the barrel that formed a pattern. 3 parallel lines, barely visible unless you knew what you were looking for. Behind the booth's counter, a young sales representative in a crisp suit noticed her attention. "Beautiful piece, isn't it? That rifle has quite a history. Recovered from a classified operation in—" "Who authorized its display?" Olivia interrupted, her gaze never leaving the weapon. "I'm sorry?" "This rifle. Who gave you permission to put it on display?" "Ma'am, I'm just here to answer questions about our current product line. The historical pieces are curated by our executive team. If you'd like, I can provide you with a brochure." "Get me Colonel Warren Hutchins, now." "I'm afraid Colonel Hutchins is in a private meeting with—" "Tell him Ghost is here. Tell him Ghost wants to know who gave him that rifle." The color drained from the young man's face. He fumbled for his radio, whispered something urgent into it, and within 90 seconds, the crowd behind the Titan booth parted like water before a shark. Colonel Warren Hutchins was everything a modern military contractor should be. Silver-haired, commanding presence, a chest full of ribbons from wars fought in deserts and mountains that most Americans couldn't find on a map. He'd risen through the ranks with a reputation for efficiency and results, the kind of officer who got things done when Washington needed deniability and speed. After retiring with full honors, he joined Titan Strategic Solutions as their vice president of tactical operations, a position that paid 7 figures and required him to remember which secrets to keep and which to sell. He approached the display case with a practiced smile, hand extended for a shake, already launching into his rehearsed greeting for VIPs. "Welcome to Titan Strategic. I'm Colonel Warren Hutchins, and I'd be happy to—" Then he saw her. Her face. The smile died. His extended hand froze mid-air. His body went rigid in a way that 18 years of military discipline couldn't hide. For 3 full seconds, he simply stared, his mind clearly racing through possibilities, trying to reconcile the woman standing before him with someone he thought was dead, erased, or buried so deep she'd never surface again. "You," he whispered, the word barely audible over the expo's ambient noise. Olivia didn't smile, didn't blink, just stood there, her pale eyes holding his with the kind of intensity that makes grown men check their exits. "Hello, Colonel." Her voice carried a weight that made nearby conversations pause. "Long time." Hutchins' throat worked. His gaze darted to the rifle in the case, then back to Olivia, then to the growing number of people starting to notice the tension. A bead of sweat formed at his temple, despite the air-conditioned comfort of the hall. "I think," he said carefully, his voice recovering some of its command tone, "we should discuss this in private." "I think," she replied, her hand moving to rest on the glass case directly above the M24, "you should tell me who authorized you to display a weapon that officially doesn't exist, from an operation that officially never happened, used by a soldier who officially never served." The crowd around them had grown quiet. Phones were starting to emerge from pockets. Isabel stood frozen, her journalist instincts warring with her concern for her sister. Hutchins' jaw tightened. "Ms. Brennan, I don't know what you think you know, but—" "Olivia Brennan." She pronounced her name clearly, projecting it across the booth. "Master Sergeant, United States Army. Unit designation, classified. Service record, erased. But that rifle?" She tapped the glass. "That rifle remembers. And so do I." A camera flash went off somewhere in the crowd, then another. Within seconds, phones were raised like a forest of electronic witnesses, all pointed at the woman with pale eyes and the colonel whose face had gone the color of old ash. "Security," Hutchins said into his radio, his voice tight. "Code 7 at the main booth. Immediate response." But before security could arrive, Olivia did something that would be replayed 10 million times across social media in the next 72 hours. She looked directly at the nearest camera, her expression calm and absolute, and said, "My name is Olivia Brennan. In 2009, I was ordered to eliminate a target in Syria using that rifle. I refused. They erased me for it. And that man," she pointed at Hutchins, "gave the order." Then she turned and walked away, moving through the stunned crowd with the same purposeful stride that had carried her through a dozen countries and twice as many wars. Isabel scrambled after her, nearly dropping her bag in her haste. Behind them, Colonel Warren Hutchins stood motionless, his reflection distorted in the glass case containing the rifle that shouldn't exist, while cameras captured every angle of a man watching his carefully constructed empire begin to crack. By the time security reached the booth, Olivia was already gone, leaving behind nothing but questions, shock, and a viral video that would set off a chain reaction neither she nor Hutchins could control. The rifle sat, silent in its case, its 3 parallel scratches catching the light like scars that refused to heal. The video hit social media at 3:47 p.m. Mountain Time. By 4:15, it had been shared 12,000 times. By dinner, major news networks were running it with chyrons that read, "Veteran claims military cover-up," and "Mystery woman confronts defense contractor at Expo." Olivia drove in silence, her knuckles white on the steering wheel. Isabel sat in the passenger seat, laptop balanced on her knees, watching the internet explode in real time. Her phone buzzed with notifications so frequently it sounded like a swarm of mechanical bees. "Liv, you're trending on Twitter, Facebook, TikTok. There are already 3 different hashtags." Isabel scrolled frantically. "People are calling you the ghost sniper. Military forums are going crazy. Some people are saying you're a hero. Others are calling you a liar or a mental case looking for attention." Olivia said nothing. Her pale eyes stayed fixed on the highway stretching toward the mountains. "There's a Reddit thread with 10,000 comments trying to figure out who you are. Someone found an old Army Times article from 2008 mentioning a female sniper competition winner named O. Brennan. They're connecting dots. Isabel, this is big, like congressional hearing big. You just accused a decorated colonel of—" Everything I said was true. Every word. Isabel closed her laptop slowly. "Then you need to tell me the whole story, not the sanitized version you gave me when you came back, not the 'I did logistics support' lie. The real story." They drove for another 20 minutes before Olivia pulled off onto a dirt road that wound up into the foothills. She parked near an overlook where the lights of Colorado Springs glittered in the valley below like fallen stars. For a long moment, she just sat there, hands still gripping the wheel. "I was 23 when they recruited me, fresh off winning the international sniper competition at Fort Benning. I thought I was going to be a regular Army marksman. Train recruits, maybe deploy with a standard infantry unit. Instead, 2 men in civilian clothes showed up in my barracks and offered me something else." Isabel waited, barely breathing. "They called it Phantom Unit. No official designation, no public record. We existed in the gaps between official operations, the missions that needed to happen but couldn't leave fingerprints. Our targets were people the government wanted gone but couldn't acknowledge wanting gone. Warlords, arms dealers, terrorist financiers, people who technically hadn't done anything to violate international law yet, but would if given the chance." "Assassinations?" Isabel whispered. "We called them preventative measures." Olivia's laugh was bitter. "Semantic games. But yeah, that's what it was. I told myself it was necessary, that I was protecting people, that the targets deserved it." She paused. "And for 4 years, I believed that." Through the windshield, stars emerged as twilight deepened. Olivia continued, her voice growing distant. "In 2009, they gave me a target in Aleppo. Syrian national. Intelligence said he was brokering a chemical weapons deal with a terror cell. They provided satellite photos, communications intercepts, movement patterns. Everything checked out. My handler was Colonel Warren Hutchins. He personally briefed me on the target." "The same Hutchins from today?" Olivia nodded. "He told me the target would be attending a meeting at a specific location, an abandoned textile factory on the outskirts of the city. My job was simple. 1 shot, clean kill, exfiltration. I was given that M24 specifically for the mission. It was modified. Suppressed barrel, specialized ammunition, custom scope, untraceable." She took a breath, steadying herself. "I set up on a rooftop 800 meters away. 6-hour wait, standard protocol. When the target finally arrived, I had him in my sights. Center mass, perfect angle, wind was negligible. It should have been the easiest shot of my career. But
then a child ran into the frame. Olivia's hands finally released the steering wheel. A little girl, maybe 7 years old. She ran up to the target and hugged him. He picked her up, spun her around. She was laughing. Isabel felt her chest tighten. I radioed for clarification. Told Hutchins there were civilians, children. He told me the intelligence was solid. Take the shot. Acceptable collateral. I asked for confirmation again. He repeated the order, said, if I didn't take the shot, someone else would, and they'd do it with a missile that would kill everyone in a 2-block radius. What did you do? Olivia turned to face her sister, and in her pale eyes, Isabel saw something she'd never seen before. Guilt that had calcified into resolve. I watched. For 3 hours, I watched that man, the chemical weapons broker. He wasn't meeting with terrorists. He was having a birthday party for his daughter. There were balloons, cake, neighbors bringing gifts. I saw a wife kiss his cheek. I saw him teach his son to kick a soccer ball. So you didn't shoot? I called it in. Told Hutchins the intelligence was wrong. He told me intelligence isn't wrong, only operators who question it. He gave me a direct order: eliminate the target or be eliminated yourself for insubordination in a combat zone. Isabel's hands covered her mouth. I made a choice, Olivia said quietly. I disassembled the rifle, left it on that rooftop with a note that said 3 words: wrong target, investigate. Then I disappeared into the city. Took me 3 weeks to get out of Syria, another 2 months to get back to the States through channels that don't officially exist. And when you came back? There was no record of me, no service jacket, no deployment history, no unit assignment. Officially, I'd never existed. My bank accounts were frozen, my military ID was invalid, the apartment I'd rented before deployment had been cleared out. It was like I'd been erased from reality. How did you survive? Friends, the kind who don't ask questions. I kept a low profile, changed my name a few times, worked cash jobs, tried to become invisible. She looked back toward the distant city lights. And it worked. For 15 years, it worked. I thought they had forgotten about me, thought I was free, until today. Until today, when I saw that rifle, my rifle, on display like a trophy, with a fake story attached to it. And I realized Hutchins didn't forget. He kept it. As what, a souvenir? A reminder? Proof that he'd successfully disappeared someone? Isabel's journalistic instincts kicked in despite her shock. We need evidence. Your word against a decorated colonel won't be enough. They'll destroy you. I know. Olivia reached into her jacket and pulled out a small thumb drive. That's why I made copies. Before I left that rooftop in Aleppo, I pulled the data chip from my rifle's digital scope. Every communication, every order Hutchins gave me, GPS coordinates, timestamps, audio recordings of him telling me to kill a man at his daughter's birthday party. Isabel stared at the drive like it was a live grenade. Tomorrow, every news organization and military oversight committee is going to receive a copy, along with documentation about Phantom Unit, names, operations, body counts, everything. They'll come for you. Let them. Olivia's pale eyes hardened. I've been running for 15 years. I'm done. Her phone buzzed, unknown number. She answered on speaker. A digitally distorted voice spoke. Miss Brennan, you've made a significant mistake. We're prepared to offer you a substantial settlement in exchange for your silence. Name your price. My price, Olivia said calmly, is the truth. She hung up. Isabel's hands trembled. Liv! These people erased you once. What makes you think they won't do it again? Permanently this time? Olivia started the truck's engine. Because this time, I'm not alone. This time, I'm not a ghost. And this time, the whole world is watching.
Isabel's apartment in downtown Denver became a war room within 12 hours. Her dining table disappeared under layers of documents, laptops, and empty coffee cups. She'd called in sick to work the first time in 3 years, and now sat surrounded by the kind of evidence that could either start a revolution or get them both killed. Okay, she said, typing furiously while Olivia paced near the window. I've been digging through military databases using my press credentials. Your official service record is exactly what you said. It doesn't exist. But there are shadows, ghost entries. Explain. Olivia's eyes scanned the street below, cataloging every parked car, every pedestrian, every rooftop. In 2006, you enlisted. Standard basic training at Fort Jackson, advanced individual training for intelligence analysis at Fort Huachuca.
Then in early 2007, you attended sniper school at Fort Benning and scored the highest marks in your class. Isabel pulled up a scanned document. Here's where it gets weird. There's a personnel transfer order dated March 15, 2007, assigning you to the 3rd Infantry Division at Fort Stewart. I've never been to Fort Stewart. Exactly, because 3 days after that transfer order, there's a notation in the system. Subject reassigned per JSOC directive. Further information restricted. Special access required. After that, nothing. For 5 years, you're a blank space in the military's records. Olivia stopped pacing. Someone tried to erase me even before Syria, the moment I joined Phantom Unit. It's more than that. Isabel opened another file. I cross-referenced deployment records, casualty reports, and weapons requisition logs during the years you claim you were operational. Look at this. She pointed to a spreadsheet showing anomalies, weapons signed out but never returned, ammunition expenditures that didn't match official operations, death certificates for targets in countries where the U.S. had no acknowledged military presence. Between 2007 and 2009, there are 47 confirmed kills attributed to equipment testing accidents or training mishaps in 7 different countries. 47 people who officially died by coincidence, all of them matching profiles for the kind of targets you described: warlords, smugglers, financiers of terror networks. Olivia moved closer to the screen. Phantom Unit. All of us. How many operators were in your unit? 6 that I knew of, maybe more. We operated in cells, never saw the full picture. Olivia's jaw tightened. The others used call signs. I only knew first names, and I'm not sure those were real. Hutchins was our primary handler, but he reported to someone higher. Isabel pulled up another document, an organizational chart of U.S. Special Operations Command. If Hutchins was giving orders in 2009, he would have been a lieutenant colonel assigned to JSOC, Joint Special Operations Command. But here's what I can't find. Any record of him being deployed to Syria or having operational authority in that theater. Because Phantom Unit didn't exist on paper. We had support structures, logistics, intelligence, but it was all compartmentalized. Black budget, no oversight. That's insane! Even classified operations have congressional oversight. Not if the right people don't want them to. Olivia's voice carried the weight of bitter experience. The operations I ran weren't about national security, they're about convenience, eliminating problems before they became headlines, and the people who authorized it didn't want questions. Isabel stood up and began pacing, her journalistic mind assembling the puzzle. So we have a secret assassination unit operating without congressional knowledge, funded through black budgets, killing people in sovereign nations, some of whom probably deserved it, Olivia interjected quietly. I'm not saying I was innocent. I pulled the trigger multiple times. I drew the line at children.
The apartment fell silent, except for the hum of laptop fans and distant traffic. We need corroboration, Isabel finally said. The thumb drive is good, but defense attorneys will claim the recordings are fabricated. We need witnesses, other members of Phantom Unit, someone else who can verify this existed. They're either dead or disappeared like me. You sure about that? Olivia considered this. There was one operator, call sign Frost. Real name might have been Isaac something. He was our communications specialist. If anyone kept records, it would be him. But I have no idea where he is. For all I know, Hutchins had him eliminated after I went rogue. Isabel returned to her keyboard, fingers flying across keys. She accessed a veteran's database, cross-referenced with Social Security records, employment histories, property records. Isaac, common name, need more. He was from Maine originally, mentioned it once, said something about lobster boats and cold water. Had a tattoo on his left forearm, compass rose with coordinates. Coordinates to what? Never asked. Isabel narrowed her search parameters. After 20 minutes of digging through DMV records, property registrations, and social media profiles, she found something. Isaac Morrison, age 41, honorably discharged from the Army in 2010, rank of Staff Sergeant, official MOS, Signals Intelligence, currently lives in Asheville, North Carolina, runs an electronics repair shop. Olivia moved to look over her sister's shoulder.
The screen showed a grainy photo from a local business directory, a lean man with weathered features and cautious eyes. Even in the low-resolution image, Olivia recognized him. "That's Frost," she confirmed. "Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us." Now back to the story. "Then we go to Asheville," Isabel said, already pulling up flight information. "They'll be watching airports, facial recognition. I'm all over the internet now." "Then we drive." Isabel grabbed her keys. "It's 24 hours if we push it. We leave now, we're there by tomorrow night." Olivia hesitated. "Belle, if you do this, you're putting yourself in danger. These people don't leave loose ends." Isabel met her sister's pale eyes with determination that matched her own. "You're not a loose end, Liv. You're my sister. And if what you're saying is true, if the government was running an illegal assassination program, then this is the biggest story of my career, maybe the biggest story of the decade." She grabbed her laptop and started packing. "Besides, someone has to make sure you don't disappear again." Olivia felt something crack in her chest, the armor she'd worn for 15 years showing its first real fracture. "Thank you. Don't thank me yet. We still have to survive this." Isabel stuffed notebooks and charging cables into her bag. "Grab your things. We leave in 10 minutes." As they prepared to leave, Olivia's burner phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "You have 48 hours to recant your statement and surrender all evidence. After that, we stop asking nicely. H." Olivia showed the message to Isabel, who photographed it with her phone. "Evidence," she said grimly. "We document everything." They descended to the parking garage, moving quickly but not frantically. Olivia had taught herself long ago that panic was more dangerous than most threats. They loaded their bags into Isabel's Honda Civic, a deliberately unremarkable vehicle that wouldn't draw attention. As they pulled out onto the street, neither woman noticed the black sedan that fell into traffic 3 cars behind them, its driver speaking quietly into a hands-free device. "Targets are mobile, heading east. Permission to intercept?" The response crackled through his earpiece. "Negative. Follow only. Let's see where the ghost leads us."
Interstate 70 stretched endlessly through Kansas, the highway cutting through plains that rolled like frozen ocean waves under a slate-gray sky. Isabel drove while Olivia maintained watch, her eyes constantly scanning mirrors, memorizing vehicles, noting patterns in traffic flow. The black sedan had been with them since Colorado, maintaining a careful 3-car buffer. "Still there?" Isabel asked, though she already knew the answer. "Still there. Black Chevy Tahoe. 2 occupants. They've been trading positions with a silver Ford Explorer for the last 100 miles. Professional rotation." Olivia's voice carried no anxiety, just tactical assessment. "They're not trying to hide. They want us to know we're being followed." Intimidation tactic? Or they're waiting to see where we lead them. Olivia pulled out her burner phone and began typing. "I'm reaching out to an old contact, someone who might help us lose them if we need to." They stopped for gas in Salina, Kansas, just after midnight. The truck stop glowed like an island of fluorescent light in an ocean of darkness. While Isabel filled the tank, Olivia walked the perimeter, her trained eyes cataloging exits, security cameras, potential threats. The Tahoe sat at a pump 3 rows over, its occupants making no attempt to conceal their presence. One of them, a thick-necked man in tactical casual wear, raised a coffee cup in mock salute. Olivia didn't respond. She returned to the car where Isabel was already back in the driver's seat, hands gripping the wheel. "They're playing with us," Isabel said, her voice tight. "Yes. So what do we do?" "We keep driving," Olivia settled into the passenger seat. "They're not going to make a move in public. Too many witnesses, too many cameras. They'll wait until we're isolated." "That's supposed to make me feel better?" Olivia's expression softened slightly. "Belle, if they wanted us dead right now, we'd be dead. They're following us because they want to see if we lead them to Frost or anyone else who might have evidence, which means we need to be careful about how we approach Asheville." They crossed into Missouri as dawn painted the eastern sky in shades of copper and rose. Isabel had been driving for 8 hours straight, and exhaustion was beginning to show in the way she blinked too often, how her head would dip forward before she caught herself. "Pull off at the next rest area," Olivia instructed. "We'll switch. You need sleep." "I'm fine." "You're not. And if we get into a situation, I need you sharp, not running on fumes and caffeine." They found a rest stop outside of Kansas City.
Isabel reclined the passenger seat and was asleep within minutes, her breathing evening out into the deep rhythm of genuine exhaustion. Olivia took the wheel and merged back onto the highway, the Tahoe resuming its position 3 cars back. She drove through the morning, letting Isabel sleep, her mind working through scenarios and contingencies the way she used to plan sniper positions, calculating angles, distances, variables. The highway became her scope, each exit a potential extraction point, every overpass a possible ambush position. Around noon, Olivia's burner phone buzzed with a response to her earlier message. The text was brief. Memphis, Riverside Park, 4 p.m. Come alone. V. V. Victor Patterson, another ghost from Phantom Unit. She'd served with him on 2 operations, both in Afghanistan. He'd been their close-quarter specialist, the one they called when targets were in urban environments where long-range shooting wasn't an option. She'd heard rumors he'd gone private after the unit dissolved, military contractor work in Africa and South America. She hadn't been certain he was still alive. Isabel woke as they crossed into Tennessee, blinking against the afternoon sun. Where are we? Just outside Memphis. We're making a detour. To see Frost? To see someone else first, someone who can help us get to Frost safely, and maybe help us deal with our shadow problem.
Stay in the car, Olivia told Isabel. Lock the doors. If anything happens, you drive away. Don't stop, don't look back. Live. This isn't negotiable. Olivia's pale eyes held no compromise. These people will use you to get to me. Don't let them. She stepped out of the car and walked into the park, moving with the easy stride of someone out for a casual stroll. She found Victor Patterson sitting on a bench overlooking the river, feeding pigeons from a paper bag. He wore jeans and a weathered leather jacket, his dark hair shot through with premature gray. When Olivia sat beside him, he didn't turn. "Ghost," he said quietly. "Heard you were dead." "I got better." A smile flickered across his face. "Saw the video. That was quite an entrance." "Not my most subtle moment." "Subtle's overrated." Victor tossed a handful of breadcrumbs to the eager pigeons. "So, what do you need? And before you answer, I should know there are 2 contractors watching you right now, Black Tahoe in the parking lot. They're not subtle either." "I know. They've been following us since Colorado. I need to get to Asheville without leading them to someone important." "Frost." Olivia nodded. "You've kept tabs." "On the ones who made it out? Yeah, professional courtesy." Victor stood, stretched, and started walking along the riverside path. Olivia fell into step beside him. "Hutchins has put out feelers through contractor networks. Big money for information on phantom survivors. He's cleaning house, Ghost, tying up loose ends." "How many are left?" "Of the original unit? You, me, Frost, maybe 2 others if they're still breathing and smart enough to stay hidden." Victor's voice dropped. "We're all that's left of a program that officially never existed, and now you've gone and reminded everyone it did." "I had to. That rifle?" "I know. I saw it. Bold move, displaying a murder weapon like a trophy." Victor stopped at a fountain, pretending to admire the water. "Your tail is hanging back, but they're listening. Directional mics. So let's make this quick. You need a clean exit from Memphis. I can arrange that. But it'll cost you." "What do you want?" "When this goes public, when you burn Hutchins and everyone above him, I want immunity, full. No prosecution for anything I did under Phantom protocols." "I can't promise that." "Then figure out who can, because right now, you need me more than I need you." Victor's expression hardened. "I've built a life, Ghost. Not a great one, but it's mine. I'm not going down because you decided to grow a conscience 15 years too late." Olivia considered this. "If I expose Phantom Unit, everyone connected to it gets pulled into the light, including you. Immunity might be the only thing that saves any of us. Then we have a deal." Victor pulled out his phone, typed rapidly, then showed her a message. "Tomorrow morning, 6 a.m., there's a freight depot on the east side of Memphis, a truck heading to Asheville. You and your sister can hitch a ride. Your followers will lose you in the shuffle." "And them?" Olivia tilted her head subtly toward the parking lot. "Leave them to me." Victor's smile was cold. "I still remember how to make noise in the right places. By the time they figure out what happened, you'll be 8 hours gone." They walked back toward the parking lot in silence. As they approached Isabel's car, Victor spoke one last time. "Ghost, what you did in Syria, refusing that shot, some of us heard about it. Command kept it quiet, but word got around. For what it's worth, I would have done the same thing." "Would you?" Victor met her eyes. "I'd like to think so.
But we'll never know, will we? Because they never gave me a choice that clean. He walked away, hands in his jacket pockets. Just another visitor leaving the park. Olivia returned to the car where Isabel waited with barely contained anxiety. Well, we have a way to Asheville, and maybe an ally, but first we need to disappear.
Colonel Warren Hutchins stared at the bank of monitors in his private office at Titan Strategic Solutions headquarters, watching feeds from traffic cameras, satellite imagery, and reports from his field team. The migraine that had been building since the expo had evolved into a constant throb behind his eyes. 24 hours. That's all it had been since Olivia Brennan walked back into his life, and already his carefully constructed world was cracking. His assistant, Gregory Caldwell, stood at attention near the door. Former CIA, now Titan's head of corporate security, which was a polite way of saying he handled problems that required violence and discretion. She met with someone in Memphis, Caldwell reported, his voice flat. Male, early 40s. Our facial recognition is still processing, but body language suggests military training. They spoke for 12 minutes, then separated. Do we get audio? Negative. They stayed out of effective range, but our team has maintained visual contact with Brennan and her sister. They're currently at a motel on the east side of Memphis, room 214. Hutchins leaned back in his leather chair, fingers steepled. How many people know about Phantom Unit? Sir? Answer the question. Caldwell shifted uncomfortably. Based on operational parameters, perhaps 30 people had direct knowledge. Operators, handlers, logistics support, but most of those are dead or no longer relevant. Define no longer relevant. 7 operators were killed in subsequent operations between 2010 and 2015. 4 handlers retired or were transferred to positions where they wouldn't be problematic. The logistics personnel were mostly contractors who we made sure couldn't talk. Hutchins finished the sentence coldly. So that leaves what? Brennan, maybe 2 or 3 other operators who scattered after the program shut down. And you're telling me we can't contain one woman with a viral video and some old recordings. Sir, with respect, it's not just the recordings. She's become a symbol. Social media has turned her into a folk hero, the soldier who said no. If we move against her overtly, we create a martyr. The blowback would... I don't care about blowback. Hutchins slammed his hand on the desk. I care about the congressional hearing that's already being scheduled. I care about the Pentagon audit of black budget expenditures. I care about the Wall Street Journal reporter who called me this morning asking about alleged extrajudicial killings in Syria. Do you understand what happens if this goes public? We don't just lose contracts. People go to prison, including me. Caldwell remained silent. Hutchins forced himself to breathe, to think tactically. The man she met with in Memphis, find out who he is. If he's another phantom survivor, we need to know. And if there are others out there, we need to find them before she does. Already on it, sir. We've got facial recognition running through every military database, contractor registry, and international watch list. Should have an ID within the hour. Good. Now, what about the sister, the journalist? Isabel Grant, 29, works for Defense Acquisitions Weekly. No military background, but she's smart. Been digging through databases all day. If she connects the right dots, she could corroborate Brennan's story. Then she's a problem that needs solving. Caldwell hesitated. Sir, if we eliminate a journalist who's actively investigating... I didn't say eliminate. I said solve. Hutchins pulled up a file on his screen. Isabel Grant has student loans, a mortgage she's behind on, a mother in hospice care whose medical bills are astronomical. Everyone has pressure points, Caldwell. Find hers and apply leverage. Understood. And the field team following them? Still in position, awaiting orders. Hutchins studied the monitors showing the motel exterior. Room 214's lights were on, shadows moving behind cheap curtains. It would be easy. A break-in gone wrong. Gas leak. Carbon monoxide. There were a dozen ways to make 2 people disappear without raising suspicions. But easy wasn't smart. Not anymore. Not with the internet watching. Tell the team to hold position, Hutchins finally said. But have them ready to move if the situation changes. If Brennan makes contact with any other phantom survivors, I want to know immediately. Yes, sir. After Caldwell left, Hutchins opened a locked drawer in his desk and removed a small metal case. Inside was a single photograph, yellowed with age.
5 operators in desert camouflage, faces obscured by scarves and goggles, standing in front of a Humvee. One of them, the smallest, was Olivia Brennan. Young, idealistic, believing she was saving the world. He'd believed it too, once. Had convinced himself that Phantom Unit was necessary, that the targets deserved what they got, that collateral damage was just the cost of keeping America safe. But Syria had changed things. That target, the one Brennan refused to kill, hadn't been a chemical weapons broker. Hutchins had known it even as he gave the order. The man had been a low-level smuggler who'd made enemies of the wrong people. Someone in the State Department wanted him gone. Someone with connections. Someone who'd made promises about future contracts if Hutchins handled it quietly. He'd ordered the strike anyway. And when Brennan refused, when she walked away, he'd had to bury everything. The operation, the evidence, her. Now, she was back, and the past was clawing its way to the surface. His phone rang. Secure line. He answered. "We have a problem." The voice on the other end belonged to Senator Mitchell Cross, chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee. CNN is running a story tomorrow about Phantom Unit. They're calling it the Pentagon's secret kill squad. I've been getting calls all morning from reporters asking for comment. Hutchins felt his blood run cold. How much do they know? Enough to ask dangerous questions, not enough to prove anything yet. But Hutchins, if this snowballs, if there's a formal investigation, everyone involved is going down. And I mean everyone. Then we contain it. How? The woman's face is everywhere. She's giving interviews. There's already a petition with 100,000 signatures demanding congressional hearings. I'll handle Brennan. You better, because if you don't, I will. And my methods are significantly less subtle than yours. We made a lot of money together, Warren. Don't let one idealistic operator destroy that. The line went dead. Hutchins sat in the darkness of his office, the photograph of his former unit still in his hand. Outside his window, Denver's skyline glittered with lights that seemed to mock him. All those people living their lives, completely unaware of the violence done in their name, the bodies buried to keep them safe. He'd spent 15 years building Titan Strategic Solutions into a defense industry powerhouse. Billion-dollar contracts, political influence, respect. And now, a ghost from his past was threatening to burn it all down because she'd grown a conscience. He picked up his phone and dialed Caldwell. "Change of plans," he said quietly. "I want a full tactical team assembled. Best contractors, the kind who don't ask questions and don't leave witnesses." "Sir, if we're talking about what I think we're talking about, we're past the point of half measures. Brennan isn't going to stop. She's going to find Frost and anyone else who survived. She's going to build a case, and then she's going to destroy us all." Hutchins' voice hardened to steel. "So we eliminate the problem. Permanently. All of them. Make it look like an accident, a car crash, a gas explosion. I don't care. Just make sure that by this time tomorrow, Olivia Brennan is no longer a threat." There was a long pause. Then, "Understood, sir. I'll have the team ready by dawn." Hutchins hung up and stared at the photograph one last time before lighting it in fire with his desk lighter, watching as the faces turned to ash in his crystal paperweight. Some ghosts, he thought, should have stayed buried.
The motel room smelled of industrial cleaner and old cigarettes. Olivia stood at the window, watching the parking lot through a gap in the curtains. The Tahoe sat 3 spaces down, its occupants visible only as silhouettes behind tinted glass. They hadn't moved in 2 hours. Isabel sat cross-legged on the bed, laptop open, continuing her digital excavation of Phantom Unit. "I found something," she said, not looking up from the screen. "Financial records. Between 2007 and 2010, there were 11 wire transfers from a shell company called Meridian Solutions to overseas accounts.
amounts ranging from $50,000 to $200,000. Each transfer happened within 48 hours of one of those training accident deaths you mentioned. Payment for kills, Olivia said flatly. That's what it looks like. And guess who sits on Meridian Solutions' board of directors? Hutchins. And Senator Mitchell Cross, and 3 other members of the Senate Armed Services Committee. Isabel turned the laptop so Olivia could see. This wasn't just a rogue operation, Liv. This went all the way to Congress. Olivia felt something cold settle in her stomach. She'd known Phantom Unit operated outside normal chains of command, but she'd always assumed it was sanctioned at the highest levels of the Pentagon. The idea that elected officials were directly profiting from assassinations made her tactical calculations suddenly more complicated. If we expose this, we're not just taking down Hutchins, she said quietly. We're taking down sitting senators. People who have the power to bury us permanently. Isabel closed the laptop. Liv, maybe we should reconsider. Go to the FBI, the Inspector General, someone with authority to... Who answers to those same senators? Olivia shook her head. No. We stick to the plan, we get to Frost, gather every piece of evidence we can, and then we release everything simultaneously to multiple outlets. Make it too big to contain. Her burner phone vibrated. Text from Victor. Truck leaves at 0600, East Memphis Freight Depot, Bay 7. Driver's name is Chen. Tell him Frost sent you, then disappear. Olivia checked her watch. 11:47 p.m. 6 hours until their window opened. We should rest, she told Isabel. Take the bed, I'll keep watch. You've been awake for 36 hours. I've been awake for longer. Olivia returned to the window. Sleep. We move at 5. Isabel wanted to argue, but exhaustion won. She was asleep within minutes, her breathing evening out while Olivia maintained her vigil. The Tahoe remained motionless, patient, waiting. At 2:17 a.m., everything changed. Olivia saw the silver Ford Explorer pull into the parking lot, followed by a black panel van. 6 men emerged, moving with the coordinated efficiency of trained operators. Body armor under casual jackets, communications earpieces. The way they scanned sectors and maintained overlapping fields of vision, these weren't surveillance contractors. These were hitters. Olivia moved fast. She grabbed Isabel's shoulder, clamping a hand over her mouth as she woke with a startled gasp. Don't scream, she whispered. Get your laptop and phone. We're leaving. Now. Isabel's eyes went wide as she registered the urgency. She stuffed her equipment into her backpack while Olivia moved to the bathroom, opening the small window that overlooked the rear of the motel. It was barely large enough for a person to squeeze through, but it would have to work. Out the window, Olivia ordered. Drop to the dumpster below, then run for the tree line. Don't stop, don't look back. What about you? I'll buy you time. Go. Isabel climbed through the window, dropping 8 feet onto a closed dumpster with a metallic thud that sounded catastrophically loud in the night silence. She rolled, hit the ground, and sprinted toward the tree line bordering the motel property. Olivia waited until her sister was clear, then moved to the door. She could hear footsteps in the exterior corridor, multiple operators moving to stack outside her room. They'd breach in seconds. She grabbed the room's heavy wooden desk chair and wedged it under the door handle. It wouldn't hold long, but it didn't need to. She moved back to the bathroom just as the door exploded inward, the chair splintering under the force of a tactical ram. Clear left! Moving right!
Olivia was already through the window, dropping to the dumpster as suppressed gunfire punched through the bathroom wall above her head. She hit the pavement running, following Isabel's path toward the tree line. Behind her, she heard shouted commands and boots hitting gravel. Targets are mobile! South side! South side! Olivia reached the trees and found Isabel crouched behind a pine, breathing hard. Keep moving, Olivia urged. We need distance. They pushed through underbrush, branches tearing at clothes and skin.
Behind them, flashlight beams cut through the darkness like searchlights hunting prisoners. The woods weren't dense enough to hide in. They needed to reach the road on the other side, find civilization, witnesses, cameras. They broke through the tree line onto a service road. A freight truck was approaching, its headlights illuminating the pavement. Olivia stepped into the road, waving her arms. The truck's air brakes hissed as it slowed. The driver, a weathered man in his 60s, leaned out the window. "You folks okay?" "We need a ride," Olivia said, breathing hard. "There are men with guns behind us." The driver's eyes narrowed, but he'd seen enough of life to know when someone was telling the truth. "Get in, quick." They scrambled into the cab. The driver shifted gears and the truck lurched forward just as three figures emerged from the woods, weapons raised. One of them fired, a suppressed round that pinged off the trailer trach. "Jesus Christ," the driver shouted, pushing the accelerator harder. "What the hell did you ladies do?" "Nothing we're going to explain," Olivia said. "Just drive. Fast." The truck picked up speed, putting distance between them and their pursuers. Olivia watched through the side mirror as the figures grew smaller, then disappeared around a bend. "Where are you headed?" the driver asked, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. "East Memphis Freight Depot, Bay 7. The driver glanced at her, recognition flickering in his eyes. "You're the ones Chen's expecting?" "Frost sent us." The driver nodded slowly. "Name's Harold. Victor called me 2 hours ago, said you might need extraction ahead of schedule. Didn't mention you'd be shot at." "Welcome to our week," Isabel muttered. Harold drove them to the freight depot, pulling into Bay 7, where a long-haul semi sat idling. A younger Asian man stood beside it, smoking a cigarette. When he saw Harold's truck, he crushed the cigarette under his boot and opened the passenger door. "You're early," Chen said, no emotion in his voice. "Had to improvise," Olivia replied. "We good?" "You're good. I'm hauling furniture to Asheville. There's space in back if you don't mind riding with sectional sofas for 12 hours. He studied them with sharp eyes. "Victor said you're running from contractors, corporate or government." "Does it matter?" "Nope. Just like to know who might be shooting at my truck." Chen climbed into his cab. "Get in back. Stay quiet. We leave in 5. Olivia and Isabel climbed into the trailer, finding a small space between furniture pallets where they could sit. The trailer door closed, plunging them into darkness. Moments later, the truck's engine rumbled to life, and they began to move. In the blackness, Isabel's voice was small. "They tried to kill us." "Yes." "Hutchins said a hit squad." "Yes." "Liv, these people have infinite resources. Money, political connections, military contractors. How do we fight that?" Olivia's pale eyes gleamed in the thin light leaking through ventilation slits. "We do what I did in Syria. We refuse to take the shot they want us to take. We force them to fight on our terms, not theirs. And if that's not enough, then we make sure the truth survives, even if we don't." Olivia pulled out her thumb drive, the one that contained all the evidence. "That's why we're going to Frost, to make copies, to spread the information so wide that can't possibly contain it all." The truck rolled onto the interstate, carrying 2 women and a truth that powerful men would kill to keep buried. Behind them, in a motel parking lot, 6 contractors searched an empty room and realized their targets had slipped away. Colonel Warren Hutchins received the news at 3:43 a.m. His response was brief and cold. "Find them. I don't care what it takes."
12 hours in the back of a semi-truck gave Olivia time to think, time to remember, time to replay every mission from Phantom Unit, searching for patterns she'd missed while executing orders without question. How many of those targets had been legitimate threats? How many had simply been inconvenient to someone with power? The truck finally rolled to a stop. Chen's voice came through a speaker mounted near the ceiling. "We're at a truck stop outside Asheville. I'm refueling. You've got 10 minutes. There's a rest area across the lot. Use it. Then we make the final push." The trailer door opened a crack, letting in afternoon sunlight that made them squint. They climbed out stiffly, muscles cramped from hours of sitting. The truck stop was typical. Diesel pumps, a convenience store, a scattering of big rigs in various states of rest. Olivia scanned for threats automatically. No black Tahoes, no silver Explorers, just truckers and travelers oblivious to the fugitives in their midst. In the rest area bathroom, Isabel splashed water on her face and stared at her reflection. I look like I've been living in a truck. Because you have been. This is insane, Liv. We're fugitives, running from professional killers, hiding in furniture trucks. She turned to face her sister. And I'm supposed to be a data analyst. The most dangerous thing I usually face is a deadline. Olivia leaned against the sink. You can still walk away. Call a cab, go back to Denver, forget any of this happened. You know I can't do that. I know, but I had to offer. For what it's worth, you're handling this better than most soldiers would. I'm terrified. That means you're smart. They returned to the truck. Chen was waiting, a paper bag in his hand. Sandwiches. Gas station quality, but it's food. We're 40 minutes from the drop point. After that, you're on your own. The final leg of the journey took them into the mountains surrounding Asheville. Pine forests gave way to winding roads that climbed into elevations where the air tasted different. Chen finally pulled off onto a dirt road barely visible from the main highway, following it for 2 miles until they reached a clearing where a cabin sat half hidden among the trees. This is it, Chen said, opening the trailer. Frost bought this place 5 years ago. Off the grid, solar power, well water, no internet, no cell service unless you climb to the ridge. He handed Olivia a paper with coordinates. If you need to reach him by radio, use this frequency. Tell him Memphis sends regards. He'll know it's clean. Olivia took the paper. Thank you. For all of it. Chen nodded once. Victor saved my brother's life in Kandahar. Said if he ever called in the favor, I should answer. Guess this was it. He climbed back into his cab. Stay safe, Ghost. The world needs more people willing to say no. The truck rumbled away, leaving them in silence broken only by wind through pine branches and the distant call of a hawk. The cabin was more fortress than home. Olivia noticed immediately. Security cameras disguised as birdhouses, motion sensors hidden in tree bark, reinforced door frames, windows with ballistic film. This was a place built by someone who understood threats. She knocked. No answer. She tried the door. Unlocked. Hello? Olivia called, stepping inside. The interior was sparse. Military cot, field desk, shelves lined with radio equipment and computer hardware. Maps covered one wall, marked with annotations in tight handwriting. I'd appreciate it if you didn't touch anything. The voice came from behind them. Olivia and Isabel spun to find a lean man in his early 40s standing in the doorway they'd just entered through. He held a pistol casually at his side, not pointing it, but making its presence clear. His face matched the photo Isabel had found. Isaac Frost Morrison, though he looked harder now, weathered by years of living in the margins. Memphis sends regards, Olivia said carefully. Frost studied her, recognition dawning slowly. Ghost, I'll be damned. Heard you went civilian. Heard the same about you. We both heard wrong. Frost holstered his weapon. Come in properly. You're letting cold air in.
The nest needed kicking. Maybe, but now the Hornets are looking for you. Frost handed the mugs. I've been monitoring contractor channels. Hutchins has put out $1 million bounty, dead or alive, though I suspect he prefers dead. Isabel spoke for the first time. Your Phantom unit, you can verify everything Olivia said. Frost's eyes moved to her, assessing. And you are? Isabel Grant, journalist. Olivia's sister. Journalist. Frost's expression hardened. You brought press to my safe house? She's not here to expose you, Olivia interjected. She's here to expose Hutchins, the program, all of it. But we need corroboration. Evidence that Phantom Unit existed and did what I said it did. Frost was quiet for a long moment, staring into his coffee. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of old ghosts. I ran 73 operations for Phantom Unit. 73 people stopped breathing because I entered a building. Some deserved it, some probably didn't. I told myself it was necessary, that I was protecting American interests. He looked up, his eyes hollow. Then they sent me after a journalist in Istanbul, someone who'd been asking questions about black site funding. They wanted him silenced. Did you do it? Isabel asked quietly. I planted the device in his car, watched him drive away, waited for the detonation signal. Frost's hand tightened around his mug, but I couldn't press the button, couldn't murder a man for writing articles. So I called in a bomb threat, got the street evacuated, then disappeared. They erased my records 3 days later. Then you understand why we're here, Olivia said. I understand. Doesn't mean I'm eager to paint a target on my back again. Frost stood, moved to a filing cabinet, and pulled out a metal case. But I kept records, everything. Every operation, every target, every handler's voice recording, because I knew someday the chickens would come home to roost. He opened the case. Inside were dozens of micro SD cards, each labeled with dates and operation codes. Hutchins ordered 47 kills through Phantom Unit between 2007 and 2010. 17 of those targets were American citizens, journalists, whistleblowers, congressional aides who found information they shouldn't have. This wasn't counterterrorism, Ghost. This was political house cleaning. Isabel's hands moved toward her laptop, then hesitated. Can I document this? Record you saying this? Frost considered, then nodded. If I'm going down, I'm dragging everyone with me. Hutchins, the senators, the contractors who profited, all of them. For the next 3 hours, they worked. Isabel recorded Frost's testimony. Olivia cross-referenced his records with her own. The picture that emerged was damning. A systematic program of extrajudicial killings authorized by elected officials, carried out by soldiers who thought they were serving their country, funded by taxpayers who had no idea what their money was purchasing. As evening fell, Frost made them dinner from military rations and canned goods. They ate in silence, 3 people who'd seen too much, done too much, trying to figure out how to live with their choices. What happens after we release this? Frost asked. Trials? Prison? Or do they just send another team to make us all disappear? I don't know, Olivia admitted, but staying silent isn't an option anymore. Not for me, not after seeing that rifle on display like it was something to be proud of. Frost nodded slowly. Then we do this right. Multiple releases, international media, foreign governments. Make it too big to contain. Agreed. Olivia pulled out her thumb drive, Frost added his SD cards, and Isabel began the process of encrypting and copying everything to secure servers across multiple continents. By midnight, the digital dead man switch was armed. If anything happened to them, the truth would automatically release to 200 media outlets worldwide. Now what? Isabel asked. Now, Olivia said. We wait for Hutchins to make his move, and when he does, we'll be ready.
They didn't have to wait long. At 6:23 a.m., Frost's perimeter alarms began pinging, motion sensors on the southern approach, thermal cameras detecting body heat signatures. 4 contacts, moving in tactical formation through the woods. Company, Frost said, his voice calm as he pulled a rifle from a hidden compartment in the wall. They found us faster than I expected. Olivia moved to the window, staying back from the glass. Through the trees, she caught glimpses of movement, black tactical gear, professional spacing, weapons at the ready. These weren't local police. These were Hutchins's contractors, and they were done being subtle. How long until they reached the cabin? Isabel asked, her voice tight. 10 minutes if they're cautious, 5 if they're not. Frost moved to his radio equipment, flipping switches. I'm activating countermeasures. Won't stop them, but it'll slow them down. Olivia heard a series of distant pops, smoke grenades Frost had planted along his perimeter. Within seconds, white smoke began drifting through the trees, obscuring sightlines and disrupting thermal imaging. We need an exit strategy, Olivia said. There's a tunnel under the cabin, built it myself. Comes out 200 yards north near the ridge. From there, it's a 2-mile hike to the main road. Frost pointed to a bookshelf. Pull the 3rd shelf from the top. It releases the panel. Before they could move, Olivia's burner phone rang. Unknown number. She answered on speaker. Miss Brennan. Colonel Warren Hutchins's voice filled the cabin. I believe we need to have a conversation. I'm listening. My team currently has your location surrounded. They're armed, trained, and authorized to use lethal force if necessary. But I'd prefer to resolve this situation diplomatically. Your version of diplomacy involves midnight assassination attempts. That was an unfortunate miscalculation. Heat of the moment. But we're past that now. Hutchins's tone was almost conversational. I'm prepared to make you an offer, a generous one. I'm not interested in money. Not money, vindication, justice, the truth. Hutchins paused. What if I told you I'm prepared to confess, to admit to everything Phantom Unit did, to name names, to provide evidence that goes far beyond what you currently have? Olivia exchanged glances with Frost and Isabel. Why would you do that? Because I'm a dead man either way. You've already released enough information that congressional hearings are inevitable. The Pentagon is opening an investigation. My career is over.
My freedom is measured in days, not years. So I'm choosing to control the narrative before it controls me. What's the catch? The catch is that I need assurances. Immunity from prosecution in exchange for testimony, witness protection for myself and my family, and Hutchins's voice hardened. I need the original evidence. All of it. The thumb drives, the recordings, everything. No copies, no insurance policies. We do this clean, or we don't do it at all. Olivia looked at Frost, who was shaking his head slowly. It was a trap. It had to be. You're asking me to trust the man who tried to have me killed twice in the last 72 hours? I'm asking you to be pragmatic. You want justice. I'm offering you testimony that will bring down senators, generals, CIA directors, people so far above my pay grade they don't even know my name. But I can't do that if I'm dead or in prison before I can testify. And if I refuse, then my team comes through that door and we end this the hard way. You and your sister die, Frost dies, and the evidence you've collected becomes inadmissible in court because it was obtained by dead criminals. The people who authorized Phantom Unit walk free. Is that the outcome you want? Isabel grabbed Olivia's arm. Don't listen to him. This is manipulation. But Olivia's tactical mind was already running scenarios. If Hutchins was telling the truth, if he really would testify, it could bring down the entire network. Senator Cross, the other committee members, everyone who'd profited from Phantom Unit. That was worth considering. I need guarantees, Olivia said. Recorded confession before any exchange. Broadcast live. No chance for you to back out. Agreed. I'll arrange a meeting. Neutral location, media presence. You bring the evidence, I bring my confession. We both get what we want. Where? The National Defense Conference in Washington, D.C., tomorrow at noon. It's the largest gathering of military brass and defense media in the country. Hundreds of cameras, thousands of witnesses. Perfect venue for the truth to come out. Hutchins's voice took on almost an eager tone. I'll be giving the keynote address. Join me on stage. We'll expose everything together. Frost was frantically writing on a notepad. Don't trust him. It's a trap. But Olivia saw the logic in Hutchins's proposal. A public venue. Media everywhere. It would be nearly impossible for him to make a move against them without creating an even bigger scandal. I need to discuss this with my team, Olivia said. You have 2 hours to decide. After that, my patience and my offer expires. Choose wisely, Miss Brennan. This is your one chance to actually change something. The line went dead. The smoke outside was dissipating. Through the clearing haze, Olivia could see the contractors had pulled back to the tree line, weapons lowered, but ready. They were waiting for orders. He's lying, Frost said immediately. This is textbook manipulation. He gets you to D.C., puts you on stage, and then what? You mysteriously die of a heart attack? Fall off a balcony? He's not offering justice. He's offering a public execution. Maybe, but what if he's not? What if he really is desperate enough to flip? Then why demand the original evidence? Why not let you keep copies as insurance? Isabel's journalistic instincts were screaming warnings. He wants to destroy the evidence, Liv. He wants you dead and the truth buried. Olivia moved to the window, studying the contractors. They maintained their perimeter but hadn't advanced. They were on a leash. Hutchins was holding them back, which meant he was serious about negotiation, or serious about getting her to D.C. where he had more control. What if we gave him fake evidence? Olivia said slowly. Doctored files, blanked drives. He wouldn't know until it was too late. Frost shook his head. He'll have tech specialists verify authenticity before any exchange. He's not stupid. No, but he's desperate. And desperate people make mistakes. Olivia turned to face them. Here's what I'm thinking. We go to D.C., we bring real evidence, but we don't give him everything. We hold back insurance, and we make sure every moment is recorded, live-streamed, documented 6 ways from Sunday. If he tries anything, the whole world sees it. That's insane, Isabel said. That's the only play that gives us a chance at real justice. Olivia's pale eyes were hard. Hutchins is right about one thing. If we release the evidence now, it becomes a media circus. Conspiracy theories, political spin. It gets buried under partisan noise. But if we get him on stage, in front of military brass and defense media, confessing to everything, that changes the game. Frost was quiet for a long moment. You're betting your life that he won't kill you in front of cameras. I've bet my life on worse odds. And if you're wrong, then you and Isabel release everything. The dead man switch activates, the truth gets out anyway. Every operation, every name, every body. Understood. I'll have my team pull back from your location. Consider this a gesture of good faith. See you tomorrow, Miss Brennan. He hung up. Outside, the contractors began withdrawing through the woods, disappearing like smoke. Within 5 minutes, the perimeter was clear. Isabel grabbed Olivia's shoulders. Please, tell me you have a plan B. Always. Olivia pulled out her phone and started typing. I'm reaching out to Victor. If this goes sideways, I need someone on the outside ready to act. Frost began packing equipment. If we're doing this, we do it smart. Body cameras, hidden microphones, multiple redundancies, and I'm coming with you. You don't have to. Yes, I do. Ghost, you saved my conscience in Syria when you refused that kill order. Showed me it was possible to say no. I'm not letting you walk into this alone. Olivia felt something unfamiliar. Gratitude mixed with hope. For 15 years, she'd been alone, running from shadows. Now she had allies, people willing to stand with her. Then we go to D.C. and we end this.
The Walter E. Washington Convention Center in downtown D.C. hummed with the energy of 1,000 defense industry professionals, military brass, and journalists. The National Defense Conference was in full swing. Panels on emerging threats, exhibitions of cutting-edge weapon systems, networking sessions where billion-dollar contracts were born over coffee and handshakes. Olivia stood in the backstage area, watching the main auditorium through a crack in the curtain. 3,000 seats, every one filled. Camera crews from CNN, Fox, MSNBC, BBC, and a dozen international networks lined the back wall. The stage was set for Hutchins' keynote address, the future of strategic operations in an evolving threat landscape. He had no idea he was about to deliver a very different kind of speech. Frost stood beside her, a small earpiece hidden beneath his collar. Victor is in position. He's got eyes on 3 potential contractors in the audience, 2 by the east exit, 1 near the meteorizer. If this goes bad, he'll run interference. Isabel was in the control booth, her press credentials getting her access to the broadcast feeds. She'd spliced in her own equipment, backup cameras, independent live streams going to servers in 3 different countries. Whatever happened on that stage would be recorded from every possible angle. 5 minutes, a production assistant called out. Olivia adjusted the small camera clipped to her jacket, barely larger than a button, but broadcasting everything to Isabel's secure servers. She carried no weapons. Security had been thorough, but she didn't need weapons. She had truth, and in the right moment, truth could be more devastating than any bullet. Colonel Warren Hutchins appeared from the opposite wing, flanked by 2 aides. He wore his full dress uniform, ribbons and medals gleaming under the stage lights. When he saw Olivia, he dismissed his aides with a gesture and approached alone. "Miss Brennan, you came." His smile was politician perfect. "I wasn't certain you would." "I keep my word." "As do I." He pulled a small flash drive from his pocket. "My confession, everything. Names, dates, operations, financial records. Enough to bring down the entire network." He held it up to the light. "But first, you honor your end, the evidence, all of it." Olivia produced a metal case from her bag. Inside were 6 thumb drives, each labeled with operation codes. Every recording, every document, every piece of proof that Phantom Unit existed. Hutchins' eyes gleamed. He reached for the case, but Olivia pulled it back slightly. "Confession first, on stage, live, then the exchange." His jaw tightened, but he nodded. "Of course, as agreed." The production assistant returned. "Colonel Hutchins, you're on in 90 seconds."
Hutchins straightened his uniform, composed his expression, and walked toward the stage entrance. Olivia followed, staying in the wings where she could watch. Frost positioned himself near the stage right exit, his hand resting casually near his concealed sidearm, the one security hadn't found because Victor had arranged for the right guards to look the other way. The lights dimmed. A video introduction played. Hutchins' distinguished career, his rise through the ranks, his transition to the private sector. The audience applauded as he walked on stage, waving with practiced humility. "Thank you," he said into the microphone, his voice amplified across the massive space. "I'm in honor to be here among so many dedicated professionals who work tirelessly to keep our nation safe." He launched into his prepared remarks, discussing emerging threats, the need for adaptive strategies, the importance of technological superiority. 10 minutes of smooth rhetoric that had the audience nodding along. Then he paused, took a breath, and his entire demeanor shifted. "But I didn't come here today to talk about the future," Hutchins said, his voice dropping. "I came here today to talk about the past, a past that some very powerful people would prefer stayed buried." The audience stirred. Confusion rippled through the seats. This wasn't in the program. "Between 2007 and 2010, I served as a handler for a classified unit that operated outside normal chains of command. We called it Phantom Unit. It didn't officially exist, its operators had no records, its missions left no paper trail, and its purpose," he paused, meeting eyes across the auditorium, "was to eliminate problems. Human problems. People who posed threats or inconveniences to American interests."
The room went deadly silent. Camera operators leaned forward, checking their equipment, making sure they were recording this. "We conducted 47 operations across 7 countries. Some targets were legitimate: terrorists, arms dealers, genuine threats to national security. But others," Hutchins' voice cracked slightly, "others were journalists investigating black budget programs, whistleblowers preparing to testify before Congress, congressional aides who discovered financial irregularities. We murdered American citizens on American soil because they knew too much." A gasp swept through the audience. Phones emerged from pockets. Reporters typed frantically. "I gave those orders," Hutchins continued, his confession now unstoppable. "I told operators to pull triggers, to plant devices, to make deaths look like accidents. And I did it because I was following orders from people even higher than myself. Senators, intelligence directors, people whose names you would recognize." In the wings, Olivia felt her pulse quicken. This was real. He was actually doing it. One of those operators was Master Sergeant Olivia Brennan. In 2009, I ordered her to kill a target in Syria. But when she arrived on site, she discovered the intelligence was fabricated. The target was innocent. There were children present. And she refused. She walked away from the mission, from her unit, from everything, because she chose conscience over orders. Hutchins turned toward the wings. "Ms. Brennan, would you please join me on stage?" Olivia walked out slowly, every camera in the room swiveling to capture her entrance. The audience erupted in whispers and urgent conversations. "For 15 years, Hutchins said, I've tried to erase this woman, to bury the truth she represented, but she refused to stay buried. And now I'm here to tell you that everything she's claimed is true. Phantom Unit existed. We killed people on orders from elected officials, and the people who authorized it are—" The gunshot was impossibly loud in the enclosed space. Hutchins stumbled backward, a red bloom spreading across his chest. He looked down at the wound with an expression of surprise, then collapsed to the stage floor. Chaos erupted. People screamed. Security rushed the stage. Olivia dropped to her knees beside Hutchins, her hands going to the wound, trying to apply pressure. His eyes found hers, already glazing. "The drive. It's real, everything. Use it." Then his eyes went vacant. Olivia looked up, scanning the auditorium for the shooter. Frost was already moving, pushing through the panicking crowd toward the east exit, where Victor had identified one of the contractors. Security personnel swarmed the stage, guns drawn, shouting conflicting orders. Isabel's voice crackled in Olivia's earpiece. "I got it. All of it. Every word he said. It's being live-streamed to 17 different platforms. They can't stop it now."
Olivia stood, her hands covered in Hutchins' blood, holding the flash drive he had dropped. Around her, the carefully orchestrated conference had devolved into pandemonium, but the cameras were still rolling. The world was still watching. She walked to the microphone, dozens of weapons now pointed at her, from security personnel who couldn't tell if she was victim or perpetrator. "My name is Olivia Brennan. What Colonel Hutchins said was true. All of it. Phantom Unit existed. We killed people on orders from elected officials, and someone just murdered him to keep him from naming those officials." She held up the flash drive. "But he gave me everything. Names, dates, financial records, proof of every crime, and it's already being uploaded to every major news outlet in the world. You can kill me, you can kill everyone who knows, but you can't kill the truth anymore." Security tackled her to the ground, the microphone clattering away. But it didn't matter. The broadcast had gone out, the confession had been heard, and somewhere in 17 different server farms across the globe, the evidence was already spreading like wildfire. The reckoning had begun.
6 months later, Olivia stood on a hilltop in Arlington National Cemetery, watching as they lowered Colonel Warren Hutchins into the ground with full military honors. The irony wasn't lost on her. A man who'd ordered assassinations, who'd tried to have her killed, now receiving a hero's burial because even in death, the truth was complicated. The investigation that followed the National Defense Conference had been seismic. 3 senators resigned within the first week. 2 CIA directors faced federal indictment. The Pentagon launched the largest internal review in its history, uncovering not just Phantom Unit, but 2 other similar programs operating under different names. Olivia had spent those 6 months testifying. Congressional hearings, grand juries, military tribunals. She'd told her story so many times the words felt mechanical, but she told it anyway because each telling meant one more person who knew the truth. Frost stood beside her, wearing a suit that looked uncomfortable on his weathered frame. He'd been granted immunity in exchange for his testimony, but the weight of 73 kills still showed in his eyes. Some burdens, Olivia had learned, you carried forever. "You think he was trying to make things right? At the end?" Frost asked quietly. Olivia watched as the honor guard folded the flag. "I think he was trying to stay alive, but when that failed, maybe he chose to matter in his death more than he did in his life." "That's generous. It's honest." Olivia turned away from the grave. "He gave us the evidence. Without it, Senator Cross and the others would still be in power. So in the end, Hutchins did more good dead than he ever did alive." They walked back through the cemetery, past endless rows of white headstones marking lives given in service. Isabel waited for them at the entrance, her press badge now reading Senior Investigative Reporter, Washington Post. Her exposé on Phantom Unit had won 2 journalism awards and launched her career into the stratosphere. "They want you at the Pentagon," Isabel said, falling into step beside them. "Secretary of Defense wants to present you with the Distinguished Service Cross, officially recognize what you did." Olivia shook her head. "I didn't do it for medals." "I know, but sometimes symbols matter. You became a symbol, Liv. The soldier who said no when everyone else said yes. Veterans are naming their daughters after you. Military academies are teaching ethics courses built around your decision in Syria. You changed something fundamental. The system still exists. Black operations, classified programs. We exposed one unit, but there are others. And now there's oversight," Isabel countered. "Congressional committees with actual teeth, whistleblower protections, ethical review boards. It's not perfect, but it's better than it was." They reached Olivia's truck, a newer model, but still modest. Some things didn't change. Victor had offered her work, legitimate contractor security that paid 6 figures. She'd declined. Some lines, once drawn, couldn't be uncrossed. "What will you do now?" Frost asked. Olivia looked back at the cemetery, at all those markers of service and sacrifice. "I've been offered a position, teaching at West Point, ethics and leadership course. They want someone who can teach future officers that following orders isn't the same as doing what's right."
Frost smiled for the first time in months. Ghost becomes a teacher. Never saw that coming. Neither did I. But maybe that's the point. We don't get to choose what we become. We only get to choose what we stand for. She drove back toward D.C., past the monuments to wars fought and won, past the buildings where decisions were made that sent young men and women into darkness. The city looked the same as it always had: marble and power, secrets and spin. But something had shifted. Not everything, not enough, but something. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, old habits screaming warnings, but she was done running from ghosts.
Miss Brennan? A young voice, nervous. This is Lieutenant Sarah Chen. I'm graduating from West Point next month. I heard you're going to be teaching there. I just wanted to say, what you did in Syria, refusing that order, it changed how I see service, how I see duty. I wanted you to know that. Olivia felt something crack in her chest, the last piece of armor she'd carried for 15 years finally falling away. Thank you, Lieutenant. That means more than you know. Will you really teach us how to say no? I'll teach you how to think, how to question, how to carry the weight of your choices. Olivia's voice softened. The shooting part is easy. It's everything else that's hard. After the call ended, Olivia drove to one more location before heading home. The Smithsonian National Museum of American History had a new exhibit, Conscience in Combat: The Phantom Unit Revelations. At its center, behind protective glass, sat the M24 rifle that had started everything. But now it had a different placard. No longer Recovered Asset, Operation Sandstorm Protocol. Now it read, The Rifle Master Sergeant Olivia Brennan refused to fire, Syria 2009. A reminder that the hardest trigger to pull is the one you don't. Olivia stood before it for a long time, remembering that rooftop, the little girl in her father's arms, the order crackling through her earpiece, the moment she'd chosen to be erased rather than become a murderer. A school group passed through, their teacher explaining the exhibit. This soldier gave up everything, her career, her identity, her safety, because she believed some lines couldn't be crossed. She reminds us that courage isn't just about fighting. Sometimes it's about refusing to fight. One student, a girl maybe 12 years old, raised her hand. Did she ever get to go back to being a soldier? The teacher considered this. She became something more important. She became an example. Olivia turned away before anyone could recognize her. She didn't need recognition, didn't need vindication. She had something more valuable, the knowledge that when faced with an impossible choice, she'd chosen right. Outside, the afternoon sun painted Washington's monuments in gold. Olivia climbed into her truck and drove toward her future. Not a ghost anymore, not invisible, just a woman who'd learned that the most powerful weapon wasn't the rifle in her hands, but the conscience in her heart. The rifle stayed in its case, silent and still, but its message echoed through every person who saw it, every student who learned its story, every soldier who faced their own impossible choice and remembered that sometimes the greatest act of courage is the shot you refuse to take. Somewhere in the Pentagon, new protocols were being written, ethics courses were being designed, oversight committees were forming. The system hadn't been destroyed, but it had been wounded, forced to confront its own darkness. And in a small apartment in D.C., Isabel Grant was already working on her next investigation, following threads that led to other shadows, other secrets. The work wasn't done, it would never be done, but now there were people willing to do it. Olivia's phone buzzed one more time, a text from Frost. Same time next year? Arlington, Hutchins' grave. Remind ourselves why we're still breathing. She typed back, sounds like a plan. Bring coffee. The city lights flickered on as dusk settled over Washington. Olivia drove through streets where history was made and unmade, where power shifted like sand, where truth and lies dance eternal wars. She'd been a ghost, a soldier, a symbol. Now she was just herself, flawed, scarred,
alive. And that, she decided, was enough.
Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.